Om Brahmanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Ganganasadrisham Tattvamasyadilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadi Sakshibhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami.
Hello, welcome. Pay very close attention to these teachings. They are from a work of Adi Shankaracharya, Viveka Chudamani, and it is Advaita Vedanta. So these are the teachings that you find in the scriptures. They are according to the scriptures. So pay very attention to these teachings. Listen very carefully to these teachings. Then you should reflect upon them, reflecting a lot upon these teachings, and then meditate upon these teachings so that they may bear fruit in your heart. Okay, moving on to the 84th verse. One who wants to gratify the body and still see the Atman is like the man who takes hold of a crocodile to cross a river, thinking it is a log, and thus is destroyed. This is the best example, one of the best verses of this book that clearly clarifies, not from the whole book, but in this context, that really clarifies what is this treating randomly the sense pleasures, the objects of the senses. And this is a very common idea among seekers, that why can't I have both? Why can't I maintain the pleasures of the senses and still realize the Atman? And this verse gives it quite clear. He who wants to gratify the body and still see the Atman is like the man who takes hold of a crocodile to cross a river, thinking it is a log that he can just support himself and walk in a safe way to the other shore, and thus is destroyed because the crocodile will eat him. For the aspirant, this body is the great object of delusion. One who can conquer that attains liberation. So this body is where it is concentrated, the notion that I am this body. And through it, infinite distractions rise from the impulses that come from within. Don't know where, no one knows where, just from within. And without questioning it, they just follow it because his strength is enormous. So those who can conquer that, they attain liberation. Kill this deadly attachment to body, wife, children, and others. The seers who have overcome it go to that high dwelling place of Vishnu, the all-pervading. So all attachment to the body and other surrounding bodies and circumstances should be completely finished. So kill this deadly attachment to the body. There's an action here. Don't wait for it to fall. You don't have time for that. Do it yourself. This body, which is made up of skin, flesh, blood, arteries, veins, fat, marrow, and bones, is full of waste matter and filth. It deserves our contempt. So this is a description, not very romantic about the body, as you can see, and it is a way that sages have used to transcend the body, either their own body or the body of someone who is an attraction, by looking at what the body really is, apart from the life that it's giving it movement. So this body, which is made of skin, flesh, blood, arteries, veins, fat, marrow, and bones, is full of waste, poop, and filth. Well, it deserves our contempt. What is this detestable body? Where is it from? Previous actions created this body by combination and permeation of the 5 elements as an instrument of enjoyment. It created also these 3 states, Jagrat, Swapna, and Susupti, waking state, dream state, and deep sleep state. The Jivatman, the individual soul, created Jagrat, the wakeful state, to enjoy gross things. Okay, so, well, it is more or less like this, but the meaning attributed to this may be confusing. So this is moving and separating expressions for a better understanding. But there's no difference between Jagrat and Swapna. Not even, but forget about that, will be more confusing. But what is gross? This is because of the perception of time, that this is more gross, more or less like that. And it's because it is experienced by different parts of the body. Okay, let's continue. So wakeful state to enjoy gross things, that meaning the objects which are of the same nature of this physical body, gross body. And as we are awakened and we know we are in the gross body, the awakened state, we compare it by the Swapna state, the dream state. But if we analyze the dream state, we see also the presence of physicality. So this is why it gets a little bit confusing for the one who has reflected over this. But this is separating to understand better that which isn't the Atman. In the waking state of consciousness, man finds his fullest activity in the body, in the physical body. In this state, he identifies himself with that body, although he is really separated from it. Through the external senses, he enjoys gross objects, such as garlands, perfumes, and so forth, as well as other objects and sense pleasures. Well, the time frame, because this is where he has the perception of spending more time. I will try not to make this more confusing than it is. Because the dream state, there is still a body, and the objects that he is touching are from the nature of that body, which appears as physical as this one. But putting things in perspective, the same having awakened state and dream state, we attribute this awakened state, the longer, where you stay the longer and it appears to be continuous, to gross, to this physical body, and the other to the energetic body. Therefore, know the body as the house of Purusa, universal soul, God. In it are all gross enjoyments. Well, the states of the body, physical body, are existence, birth, growth, change, decay, and death, modifications. Corpulence or thinness, caste, social strata, color, creed, ignorance or learning, different diseases, respect, insult, all these belong to the body, not the Atman. So these are observable traits of the body. The 10 Indriyas. The 5 senses are feeling and sight, hearing, taste, touch, and smell. The 5 organs of action are tongue, legs, hands, and organs of secretion and generation. Describing what isn't Atman, what's non-eternal. There are 4 internal organs. The buddhi, internal, means in relation to the body, but it's just a schematic. The buddhi, determinative faculty, ahankara, ego, mind, and chitta, that which takes impressions. So this is describing the mind as a whole. But here it is separated, different parts of it. The buddhi, that which determines what's going to happen, the actions. Ahankara, the ego, the sense of I, the shadow, under a product of the shadow of the Atman. Mind and chitta, that part of the mind which impressions are received. There are 5 pranas, vital breaths. One prana is given 5 names according to its different functions, just as gold is made into different ornaments, or water into different colors takes different names. This is the gross body. So these pranas, like the gunas, they are being differentiated by the functions that they are doing, the functions that are observable. The subtle body is made of 5 organs of feeling, 5 of action, 5 pranas, 5 subtle elements, the buddhi, avidya, ignorance, kama, desire, and karma, work, created from the 5 subtle elements. So, if you understand this, you will see that the reason why it goes birth after birth, takes birth again, and characteristics move on with that individual soul from incarnation to incarnation, is that these impressions, they are at the subtle body. So the physical body dies, and everything, the storage of everything, keeps in the subtle body. It is with desire, and it feels action done because it is ignorant of his real nature. It doesn't know it is Atman. It just knows. It knows it is, and then perception of that physical structure. Swapna, dream, belongs to the subtle body. It enjoys subtle objects and sees only what has been done in wakeful state. like I did previously, I have to do it again here because physicality is an illusion, of course, and through certain spiritual experiences, certain meditation techniques, for example, Vipassana, you can observe just the body dissolving and just a free flow of energy, nothing dense, nothing solid there. So when we go to the dream state, you still experience physicality, but looking at these different aspects, modes of consciousness, you make this separation just to understand, but we cannot take it in full. It enjoys subtle objects and sees only what has been done in the wakeful state. It has much more creativity than that. Let's say that the physical body is limited to that script, and the subtle body is more free, is more creative. And it can, let's say that they experience a lot according to the sanskars. But that's another discussion altogether. So it enjoys subtle objects and see only what has been done in the wakeful state. This one's okay. I talked about this. The Atman is the supreme being. The intellect is his minister, but things done by the intellect do not touch him, the Atman. He is unattached. It is his instrument, as the chisel is to the carpenter, so the intellect is to Atman. So it is just the scent of the Atman which gives birth to all of this. And the intellect is that which is closest to the Atman. Below that, let's call it lower mind, full of sense impressions, agitation. As this is very intense, not clean, not pure, not still, intellect difficult to access, so the reflection of the Atman impossible. The subtle body changes belong to avidya. Blindness, deafness, dumbness, etc. belong to the subtle body. Because it is through the subtle pranas that vision is possible, hearing is possible, touch is possible, everything is possible. In the absence of that prana assisting that function is no more. It belongs to the subtle body, to the senses, but not to the Atman, though we apply it to the Atman. We apply it to the Atman by saying, I am death. I, existence, is the Atman. It is the reality. But confusing it with the body, it's like saying that these characteristics are of the Atman. So breathing in and breathing out, yawning, all secretions, all functions belong to the organs only, to the pranas. And the functions of pranas are hunger and thirst also. So everything is non-Atman. It's not mine, is of the body. Subtle body, gross body, of the body alone, not of the Atman. The ego. In the Upadi, limiting adjunct, is that shadow of the Atman which lives in the heart. The four stages of the mind, it enjoys or suffers as the case may be. So what lives in the heart is the shadow of the Atman. It is a limiting agent, upadi. With the four stages of the mind, and it enjoys or suffers as the case may be, as it is the source of the experience and the beliefs, the prior beliefs of what's good and bad and so on. The three qualities, gunas, belong to the ego, not the Atman. So we're going to talk about the gunas. But again, they belong to the ego, this mistaken identity, because of the shadow of the heart of the Atman. When all is favorable, the ego becomes happy. When not favorable, unhappy. Again, depending on what you consider to be favorable or unfavorable, according to values, beliefs, etc. The objects of the senses are dear, not for themselves, but for their use to the Atman, because the self is naturally always dear to us. The suicide even tries to please the Atman because, well, he is escaping suffering, seeking bliss, which is the nature of the Atman. And this is why the senses are dear. And when they don't bring that expected happiness, they become unimportant. The objects of the senses are dear. Okay, so this was read again. In Susupti, dreamless sleep, where there is no object at all, no pleasure or pain, the Atman shines in its glory. When that soul goes into the consciousness of its Jagrat, waking state, it becomes conscious of seeing, hearing, etc. So when you reach deep sleep, you just know that you exist. There's only existence, pure existence. No mind, no body, nothing happening, nothing. So the Atman shines in its purest. And when the soul goes into the awakened state, first you appear here, whatever that means, and then you become aware of seeing, hearing, and feeling, and etc. What they are calling here direct perception, but direct perception through the body and its senses and the objects of senses. So Maya. What is the shadow of the Atman? How can there be a shadow if there's nothing else? There is one undifferentiated, undivided. Nobody can define what it is, but it has the power of God, beginningless and yet also called ignorance. It has three qualities, so it seems very opposite from one another, but we will see the rest. It has three qualities, sattva, rajas, and tamas. It cannot be understood except by its actions of these qualities, and that only by the enlightened ones. It has created all this universe, produced it all. It is Maya. So there's only Atman, that undifferentiated, undivided. Nobody can define what it is because it is beyond the body-mind. So it cannot be defined by the body, by the mind. So no one can define it. But it has the power of God. Beginningless, and yes, yet called ignorance. It is beginningless because it doesn't really exist. So that which doesn't exist is beginningless. Yes, we could say the other way around also, but let's keep it more simple. It has three observable qualities by the actions of what is observed, by the characteristics of the actions. We will see this again. And it has created all this universe, which is just superimposed by this divine power, and that is Maya. And if you ask of its form, it cannot be stated. It is beyond description. It is neither real nor unreal. Neither is the mixture of the two. It is beyond description because it has nothing to do with the body-mind complex. So it is beyond the senses, the body, the senses, and the mind. So it cannot be described because description is in the nature of these instruments of perception. It is neither real nor unreal. It is beyond both. Neither is a mixture of the two. Is it separated from Atman? It is neither separated yet non-separated. It doesn't touch the Atman, but at the same time, it doesn't exist. Only the Atman exists. So you cannot say that it is separate, and you cannot say that it's not separate. Nor part of the Atman. Yes, you neither can say it is not part, it is not the body, it is the most wonderful and beyond all description. Let's see if I missed something here. Not part of the Atman, yet neither you can say it is not part. Same, because it is superimposed as the example of the cobra in the rope. You cannot say that they are not the same thing, but you cannot say that they are the same thing. So, did I say this right or did I just contradict? Whatever. It is not the body. It is the most wonderful and beyond description. Whatever you can describe is not the Atman. It is real and unreal. Unreal because it changes. And not unreal because it is. What does this mean? Unreal because of its modifications, observed modifications. So if it is modifying, if it has changes, is not the real one, because the real one is changeless. The Atman is changeless. Brahman is changeless. So it's unreal because of that, because it changes. So it can't be real. And it's not real because it is, because it exists. And existence is the faculty of Brahman only. Is not separated because you see Atman alone. If separated, there must be two. So, in the realization of Atman, seeing Atman means seeing yourself. There's not a second one. You are seeing yourself is the best way of describing this. There's no better way. You're seeing yourself, the infinite of yourself. So, it is not separate because you see Atman alone. So if you see yourself, there's no separation. And you cannot say is not separate, as you cannot say the snake is not separated from the rope. As you are seeing the snake in the rope, you cannot say not separate because they appear to be together. As you are seeing this body, and it exists, and existence is there, so you cannot say that it isn't separated. This is confusing. But again, it's just an appearance only. And that cobra disappears as soon as the rope is identified. Knowledge of Brahman, the one, pure, without a second, destroys it, as the illusion of the snake in the rope is destroyed when the nature of the rope is known. Its three qualities are famous for their own actions, known by their own actions, by the qualities of the observable actions. The power of decentralizing, of projecting, is rajas, coming from dormancy and expanding in all directions is the power of rajas, from which all desires spring. What are its effects? Constant attachment and all disturbances of the mind, sorrow and pain. It is the cause of bondage, and these are the effects of the presence of rajas. The properties of rajas are desire for enjoyment, anger when that enjoyment is disturbed, greed, pride, envy, egotism, and jealousy. Tamoguna. The property of tamas is to cover, as scattering is the property of rajas. It makes things appear to be what they are not. And this is the cause of bondage and even of decentralization. So it means that in tamas, rajas lies dormant, but everything is there. It is really one quality appearing in different actions. We call it by different names. It is one force. In tamas lies dormant the power that's manifested in rajas. What a tremendous power this tamas has. Even he who has the knowledge of the Atman, who is versed in scriptures, very intelligent, who has keen insight, even such a person engrossed in tamas cannot understand the Atman even when explained in many different ways. But he takes the attributes of Maya as the Atman. He cannot do otherwise except by taking the body with its characteristics, that is Maya, for the Atman, for the real I. So I am the body. So even such a person which has access to the knowledge of the Atman, versed in scriptures, very intelligent, is over the power of this tamoguna. So, and even if he is doing actions that increase sattva, we'll talk after, which is the elevated state of these two, maybe not, more or less, okay, just for an example. So you're doing meditation, intense meditation, you're purifying those gunas and growing in sattva guna. Then your perception starts to change. You have experiences that point you in the right direction. You have all of this fresh in your mind, alive. But then you start reducing those efforts and you start going back to the habits that increase tamas and rajas, and you'll become engrossed again. You'll forget all those experiences you had. You lose that more clear sight, more focused mind, and you go back to the same lethargy you were previously. Is very common to happen. Okay.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.